a public hearing at 1 p.m.
Bradford.
I have deeds. Do I have anything? We don't know. I'll know Monday, so I'll put it ready with a question mark. Counselor, no. I see her book, but we'll go on to Counselor Green.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 19 relates to compensation for the Board of Assessment. Does Commissioner OJ want to speak to this?
Good morning, councilors. Matt OJ, Commissioner of Assessment. So our hardworking Board of Assessment review members who oversee or who adjudicate the grievance process haven't gotten a raise since 2001, we believe. I know they've lobbied some of you individually, and we are proposing that they get a raise from $100 a day, flat fee throughout the assessment review season, to $150 a day for the first month and $125 for the second, incentivizing prompt disposition of cases.
Does anyone have any questions on this?
Long overdue.
I think that we proposed it.
Okay. Commissioner, do you want to go to number 20?
Sure. We would like authorization to retain Cushman and Wakefield to appraise the city-owned parking garage at 601 South Warren Street, the Harrison Street garage.
Any questions on this item? Okay. 21.
We're looking to amend the assessment roll. There was an assessment increase that was improperly categorized as tax liable rather than tax exempt on Brighton Towers, which mostly benefits from a shelter rent agreement.
Brighton Towers, okay.
Okay. Questions on this item? 22.
We'd like to correct the roll to correct ownership of a property at 618 South Clinton Street. There was a resub done years ago when the bridge was reconstructed there, and somehow ownership was mislabeled. It belongs to a private entity. It was categorized as belonging to Onondaga County for some reason, and this was brought to our attention, and we'd like to go way back and fix it every year.
Okay. Any questions on this? Okay. Thanks, Commissioner.
Cool.
Item 23. Is this from the clerk's office?
Annual workday. Grass in the back. There you go. Where are you hiding?
Hey, councilors, Brad O'Connor, Commissioner of Finance. So we have two items here that are required by New York state law to establish the standard workday for city employees. We are proposing a consistent standard workday, which is 6 hours a day for common councilors and 7.25 hours for all other city employees. In addition to reporting on our standard workday, we also need to report to the state retirement system the work hours for employees who do not participate in the time reporting system, which would be the common councilors.
Question. Okay. So is location of work also in that?
It's not.
Okay. So when
Total
people,
hours.
departments have people working from home, that's just all agreed upon by their supervisor?
That's right.
Okay.
And let me just ask a question. When you talk about the standard for the common council, 6 hours a day, are you looking at what, 5-day work weeks? 'Cause
That's right.
You know we work 7 hours, so 7 days a week, correct?
Yeah, the standard workday is just establishing the target, with the understanding that it's not going to be exactly 6 hours.
And I get that, but I'm looking at it this way. You're saying 5 days. Well, some of us have jobs. And if you're working a 60-hour job and then you're throwing in a standard 6 hour a day, that's a bit much because the state already requires us to do 30 hours. So I've gotten used to that 30 hours that the state says I can do from Monday to Sunday.
Yeah, I don't think this limits when you can work or, requires you to work 6 hours a day. It's just establishing the standard, which would amount to 60 hours a week.
So why couldn't we just say 30 hours? 30,
Sorry,
why do we
not
have?
60 hours a week.
So once you
30
put it
hours.
down in black and white, why would we put Monday through Friday? Why can't we just say 30 hours?
Right.
Because I know all of us on here.
Yeah, the state,
30 hours. I did 30 hours, 40 hours just at graduations last week.
Right.
Like, you know,
yeah, it's
weekend.
right. So it's just the unit measure that the state needs us to report on, and that they're asking for hours per day rather than per week or month or year.
And I'm a little confused though, so they gave it to normally the clerk would record all of our time and send it in, so now it's going to the administration?
I record it.
Right, but the administration is being charged with giving us our standardized work schedule?
No, this is just a reporting mechanism to the state. The reporting is certified by the clerk, prepared by the clerk, certified by the clerk, and submitted by the Commissioner of Finance. So really my role in this is really just to submit the certified reports.
Okay, so we can continue to do what we've been doing then,
That's right.
okay?
I think, Mr. President, as you well know, this is just a mechanism for the New York State retirement system, basically, so everybody
Right.
qualifies for the retirement
So
system.
I understand that, and that's why I said it,
Obviously.
and when they send us the sheet, it's all on there anyway, so, yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, Joe, it's really, like a 20-hour, they're requiring at least a 20-hour for you all to report. At least a 20-hour workday. That's
30.
20-hour workday.
The work week,
I'm sorry.
30,
Yeah, weekday.
30.
Maybe 30, okay.
30, we're required to do 30 hours.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Item 25 and 26.
Good afternoon, councilors. Vicki Voss, Deputy Commissioner of Finance. 25 and 26 came about, I got a complaint letter that was sent to the mayor from a parent of an SU student. The parent was domiciled in Massachusetts, said that it was illegal and inappropriate for us not to have notified him of his son's parking tickets, and it turns out he's right. So I spoke with Brad O'Connor after researching this with EDC, who is the software vendor that we use our parking ticket software. And I said, well, we're checking the DMV records for all the parking tickets from New York State. Can you do that for out-of-state plates as well? And they said, oh, sure. It's $1.25 each, and it's $1.50 in Connecticut because it's Connecticut. And so I said to Brad, I said, well, this will increase collections because right now we're not asking people to pay their parking tickets if they live out of state. We're just putting the tickets on the cars and hoping that they pay from that. And I brought Leah is here also, the head of Bureau of Administrative Adjudication and Parking Violations Bureau, and she said that legally we have to notify these out-of-state people. But what's important to note, beyond the fact that we're now doing the right thing legally, is that our collections have gone up on average $5,800 per month. So if we're spending $900 to get $5,800, it's a good deal.
Okay, any questions on this? Okay, thank you. Item number 27.
Good afternoon, councilors. Kelsey May, Director of Digital Services. So we are requesting to authorize the use and appropriate funds in the amount of $620,000 within the digital cybersecurity bucket. The funds will be used to assess all of our HR and finance processes. We have an enormous backlog of projects that we would like to implement and configure within our PeopleSoft environment, and understand, how we can refine the product that we use, how we can, actually make it work for us. I actually also have Commissioner Brad O'Connor, and I have Director of Human Resources Rick Alcivar here as well, to talk a little bit and give a little bit more context into the functionality that we don't have and the goals of the project from a functional perspective.
Thanks. So with regard to our financial systems, which is largely what this project is, we've got a dozen different financial systems that don't talk to each other. Some of those systems go back several decades. So the software is antiquated, the security is antiquated, and we are losing a ton of efficiency trying to connect these Frankenstein parts manually. In order to really improve this, we have over the decades patched these systems to try to get them to link with each other, to try to bring them up to 21st century technology, but they're patches, they can only go so far. What we need to do is get the consultants in here who understand these systems, understand how they should work, understand our needs, and have them do a full review of all of our systems to give us a recommendation on one piece of software that will solve all of our needs, and that software will be catered to us, tailored to us. So it will be one solution to all of the 10 functions that we're trying to solve that will work seamlessly and securely.
So let me ask you this question, because my time on the council, we've been trying to do that with all of these computer systems. So do you see this whole system being updated before this administration leaves?
Yeah, I mean, Kelsey, you can talk about the time.
Yeah, so that would be aggressive, but it should be the goal, right? A lot of what we're looking at is a multi-year effort, but we at least need to start it. We at least need to look towards what the technology is going to be, 3 to 5 years from now, because unfortunately, just the way the landscape is, if we're looking at what makes sense right now, in 3 to 5 years when it's implemented, we're going to be behind. And that money is going to be put to better use, looking towards what's the best technology now that we can implement, so that 3 to 5 years from now when it's implemented, we're not going to be behind. We're not going to have something that's end of life or not secure or patchy. This is a time where instead of, I think Brad put it very well, where our previous efforts have been identify something that needs to be patched or identify a very specific thing that needs to be fixed, and we fix it without really looking at all of the processes, all of the systems involved in, all of what we do. And this is the first time that we are going to approach it from that enterprise perspective, all of the departments, all of the processes, and ultimately centralizing all of those functions with the software in mind will, benefit us in the long run by making more of a strategic investment this way, other than, one-off.
Can I just, for the humor me at some point, not now, can I see all of the costs associated with how we've been patching?
So, yeah, and I will say, I will write that down for you, Madam President. I think that on that note as well, it would be a good opportunity just to kind of put out there that, Frank Cleva, Chief Administrative Officer, and myself and others have been talking about a technology audit of the entire landscape. Part of that assessment really is about cost, right? It's about how are we spending our money, how have we spent our money, and how do we make strategic investments, smarter investments in technology moving forward. And what's the risk associated of doing nothing, attaching a financial value to that, the security risk, everything. So I've written that down, but it is definitely in the plans, more critically towards the end of this calendar year, Q2 of the financial year, to do that more seriously.
So I'm trying to understand this a little better, but so the money would go to, one, evaluating our current systems, and then 2, implementing the changes?
Yep. So more so on the first part. So the money is going towards the assessment of everything that we have in the landscape, and then it creates a very specific roadmap for what do we do in what order, how do we do it, what's the resourcing that we need to do it, and it's planning everything throughout the next few years of what we would do with all of our financial and HR systems.
So it would be to hire a third party to do that?
Correct. Yep.
So we will do an RFP for that, or how do we determine who that is?
So item 28 actually is also within this same legislation request, if that's okay, if I speak on that for a moment.
Sure, go ahead.
So we have our master services agreement with multiple IT vendors that we did an RFP for about a year ago. It's up for renewal next month. So we have a pool of vendors that we trust, that we work with, who already have been vetted for this type of work. They have overseen the Office 365 migration, which is in flight and coming to a close within the next few weeks. And our goal is to craft a scope of services and triage it within this group of vendors and go with the vendor that we feel understands the scope the best.
Do they need to request a waiver for that or no? Just assumed? Okay.
Do other people have questions on this?
So all of this is without competitive bid, right?
Sorry, say that one more.
It's without competitive bid. This is,
We've already done the competitive bid of the pool of vendors, and that was the goal of the MSA, was to have a pool of vendors consistently for the next several years so that we could tap into those vendors that already went through that competitive bid process.
28, Council President. It's amending that ordinance there, increasing the amount, so they went through all that.
So do we have the scope of what we're going to ask them to do yet, or no?
We don't have an explicit scope. That would be the next step after this.
So I guess just backing up, like, I totally agree with our systems need to be updated and want to do that. I'm a little, process-wise, I'm a little concerned with us determining the amount first and the scope second, right? And so it feels like we're just approving 620 for cybersecurity without a super clear understanding of what we're going to get out of it. So I think that's where I'd want to just see, like, what's our scope so that we know kind of what we're approving, if that makes sense.
Can you provide that before Monday?
We can, absolutely. We can get together, I think, and give you an idea, a more documented idea of what the scope is. As far as amount, the amount was actually an estimate based on previous projects of similar scope. So we can absolutely get you the scope that we've been discussing and documenting.
Because I think if we do it this way, what we'll get is, like, here's the amount of work we can do for $620,000, which may be too much, not enough. You know what I mean? Like, I would want to know, here's what needs to be done. And if that's 800,000, we should approve that. If it's 400,000, we should, approve that. But at least kind of we know what it is going into it.
Sure.
Okay. Other questions on that? Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Item 29, Downtown Committee. I'm going to speak to that one, and then Kraus Marshall is related.
I don't know, he didn't say.
That's going to be you next week, Joe.
Councilor Driscoll here. I mean, the Downtown Committee is just what they had in the budget. So you've largely looked over it, and this is approving it.
This is what we approved in the budget, and now it's coming to the fiscal year, and similar with Kraus Marshall Business District as well.
Yep. I will note that later there's a budget transfer, and the transfer does put $2,500 more into the Downtown Committee because they had a matching program where they spend $12,500 and we give a $12,500 match. They went to $15,000 and they got their we didn't put the extra $2,500 to match, so that'll be in here later, but it's separate.
But the match, was that for the police?
I think it was for capital investments in their
When they
district.
do like benches and stuff like that.
Because we did part with the police too, with the Downtown Committee.
This is for Kraus Marshall, though, you're saying, right?
Kraus
Oh,
Marshall.
the $2,500 is for Downtown Committee.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Okay. Any questions on 29 and 30? Okay. Tim, you want to stay for 31 and 32?
Let's see what that's.
So this is one we had a committee meeting on for the use of the administrative funds. Does anyone have any questions on these items? Okay. Item 33.
This is the budget transfer. It's mostly, the slurry seal cost went up by more than we expected because of the high price of oil. So this increases their budget that we pay for. Eventually it gets paid for with the fee, but there's like a year delay. So it'll cause the fee to go up next year. So we just need the money to be able to pay this year. So it's basically that change plus the 2,500 for the omission of the match for the downtown committee.
Any questions on that? Okay, thank you. Items 34, 35, and 36 will be discussed in executive session. Item 37.
Good afternoon, councilors. Joe Barry, First Assistant Corporation Counsel. Items 37, 38, and 39 are the Law Department's annual waiver requests for process servers, printing services for appellate court submissions, and the title companies that we need to do property searches relative to most commonly the land bank transfers.
Any questions on these items? Okay.
Thank you.
Joe. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Now we'll flip back to Councilor Caldwell.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 10.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam President. I have items 10 through 18. We'll go over each line item. Julie, would you start off with item 10?
Absolutely. Julie LaFave, Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. Item number 10 is to accept a donation from Memorial Bench for Keith Solvay at Burnett Park. Item number 11 is to enter into an agreement with Sura. They have an own Perseverance Park. However, they get requests to permit it out. The Parks Department already has a mechanism to rent out parks, so this is an agreement for us to just manage that and keep any revenues from the rental.
Does that come up often? Do people?
It does every once in a while.
Any questions? Okay, go ahead, item 12.
Item number 12, as you know, we're trying to expand our programming and opportunities for our youth. This is enter into an agreement with Bruce Mobile Skating. They bring in roller skate supervision, music, setup, tear down of roller skating events. We'd like to do this throughout the year. We would like to kick it off the first week of August, where we're going to bus all of the kids from all of our community centers and playground programs to Onondaga Park, right there on the basketball courts, because it's nice and smooth, and provide this activity as hopefully the first of many.
That's awesome, because I remember when we did reach out to the youth, this was something we heard from all corners of the city that they wanted roller skating, which is really cool, because I don't think kids have been requesting that since the 80s.
Right.
I used to rock it. I'm glad it's coming back.
Yep.
But how many events does this get us at roughly 3.4 thousand?
I think I did it for roughly 10 or so throughout the year. And we always, if it's really popular, we would amend it, but we just want to try it out. I want to just come once for the entire fiscal year to plan it many times. And just as an update, they just came back from Hershey Park, which was what you guys approved.
Phenomenal.
Yes.
I heard great things
Yes.
about it,
So thank you for that. This is the next step.
Great, this is awesome.
Can you share the schedule of when those events happen, or?
I
what
can,
parks
right,
are
well,
planned
we
for?
haven't planned it until this approval comes, but yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
And you mentioned transportation.
We have a contract with busing, so we will go to Wilson Park, McKinley, or wherever we have programming, and bus the kids all to Onondaga Park for the day. We're gonna have a full day of food, roller skating, kayaks, swimming, everything.
Onondaga Park is the central location for.
It has the best location for a smooth surface for the roller skates. Plus we have the kayak, there's a lot more activity we can do there. Item number 13 is to apply and enter into an agreement for a SAM grant from Pam Hunter for $300,000 for the Southwest, both roof and HVAC system.
Wait a minute. So, just elaborate on that a little bit more. So that's because the air conditioner went, right?
Yes.
And with the
This is just specific to the pool area, not the rest of the building.
Okay.
Item number 14 is to apply for funds that were given from Senator May's office for the partial repair of Westminster steps.
What's the timeline on that? I know it's.
It won't be fast, so this is just the application to the state. So we'd have to wait for the contracts and the agreements to come back, then it would have to go out to RFP. It's probably a few years.
Yeah, Dasney, yeah.
Yes.
About a year.
This also would, again, only be for a portion of the steps. Our initial, as of a few months ago, the project quote was 1.2 million, so I expect that will continue to rise. Item number 15, this is on behalf of Dog Control. They need an agreement with VMC, which is that provides the emergency services. This is to authorize the first of 2 one-year renewal options for them. I'm going to skip 16 and 17 and have Steve Harris do that because I only have one more item. So number 18, this is to authorize payment to Edward Cole for Rhythm and Shoes. That is the band that the senior center uses for all of their parties. Okay, and I will invite Steve Harris up for 16 and 17.
Good afternoon, councilors. Steve Harris, City Arborist, Parks Department. Items 16 and 17 are to issue bonds to do tree pit enhancements in our business districts. Think of it like you would repairing our curbs and sidewalks along our business districts. It's just the activity of expanding the tree pit so the roots have a place to grow underground so that they don't heave the sidewalk, but also grow nice and thrive. Requires a little specialized activity. So we set this aside so that we can leverage other improvements that are going on in our business districts. Think of the process that we're going through with Downtown Revitalization Initiative, where we're looking at improvements to West Onondaga and South Ave. That would be an example of something we could leverage to extend dollars and impact further.
So Steve, this is the actual planting of the trees?
No, this is breaking up all the hardscape, digging out an area, putting a special stone in, and putting the hardscape back as it was before, so that when we do plant the tree, the root can grow out under the hardscape.
Okay, because I think President Hudson and myself probably would remember this, but I mean, obviously, you're going to use the species as trees that are prone to surviving in the urban landscape, correct?
I mean, we need to plant tougher trees by the roads, and then we kind of match how big the tree gets with the amount of space we have underground.
Because more than a few years ago, being in the city parks department, we did plant trees, and according to some architect's idea of fallow trees, and they were just decimated through the city and downtown core.
Oh, you mean like Salina Street?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, Counselor, everything looks good on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are just 4x4. Imagine those are 4x4 flower pots that are 3 feet deep, and then they put a tree in that wants to grow 50 feet tall. That just is a problem. So we don't do that anymore.
Faith in your expertise, Steve.
I appreciate it. All right, thank you.
Steve. Julie, could you come back up? I have a quick question, just while we're up here, about the parks. What's going on with the pools? Any new information with the pools that are not open?
So we have 4 pools that are open right now. We did expand the hours by an extra hour. Burnett Pool would be the 5th one. We expect that to open soon. That's just finalizing the construction. We do not have enough guards still to open the remaining 3 pools.
And then the ticks, I would like to have you guys look into that a little bit more with the parks.
You said ticks?
Yeah, ticks in the parks with the deers. If there's something out there, I've did some research about spraying for the ticks.
Okay.
Where the kids are playing.
Okay, we will reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. We're ready.
Okay, Counselor Paniagua.
Good afternoon, everybody. I have items 40 and 41. Item 40, it's the extension of the city contract with Excelus to be a third-party administrator and services. Are you here to talk about that?
Correct. I'm actually going to introduce Monica
Okay.
Cecilia, who is our consultant at BPAS. There was an update to the Excelus contract, but I will let her get into the details for you.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Monica Cecilia, BPAS. As Rick just said, we are proposing to enter into a contract with Excelus for a 2-year fixed term with 3 optional 1-year renewals. There's a detailed pricing schedule in the appendix or somewhere. I don't It's not in this little sentence. And I can field questions about that.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's been some complication with services. Could you give an overall review of our level of satisfaction with the service we got from Excelis?
Yeah, so the, the service from the team I deal with and personnel has been fine. I know there has been an occasional member hiccup. I think that happens everywhere with any service provider, but nothing brought to my attention that exceeds what I would call normal member disruption. The structure of this contract is such that we currently have a contract with Excelis that has options for 2 extensions. So the 2-year fixed term is in essence extending through the end of our current contract, but they provided a very competitive deal. And so we asked for 3 optional extensions on top of that to allow us the ability to capitalize on some, favorable financial terms and hopefully lock in some protection against inflation. And
can you talk a little bit about that structural change that came with the COVID impact and the things that weren't
met?
Exactly.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I didn't know how much detail you wanted to get into. So in essence, the contract we have in place today had performance guarantees saying that Excelis would meet certain financial metrics. One of the financial metrics was not met, but the reason it wasn't met, hard to prove, but we believe is due to the pandemic, because healthcare over the last 3 years has not been a normal situation. And the deal we entered into for the last 3 years was entered into in late 2018, well before anyone knew what the word COVID-19 was. So rather than trying to figure out what part of that metric was attributable to the pandemic and what wasn't, we said, let's negotiate a future deal that capitalizes on that miss and builds it into a future contract. And then we have continued to put financial guarantees in place over the next 2 + 1 + 1 + 1 contract in hopes of being able to actually measure their performance against their guarantees in a more normal environment.
And it gives us leverage as well.
And we, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned when we met, if I understood correctly, that at any point during this multi-year contract, we can pull out if we deem needs to be.
Yes, yep. In the terms of your contract is a termination clause.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions? No? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then item 40, what was it, 41? Go ahead.
Item 41 is to enter in an agreement with BPAS to retain BPAS as our third-party administrator for non-retirement benefits.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Easy enough, thank you.
All righty. Counselor Hogan.
Thank you, President Hudson. I have items 42 through 47. 42 is probably, 42 is a special permit for 136 Beatty Street. Heather?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, counselors. Heather Lamandola, zoning administrator. This was held last time. I did receive a couple phone calls, but I don't know if you have any additional questions.
I'll say this. It saddens me to say this because it'll probably be the last time I say this, but what do you think, Councilor Driscoll?
Yeah, I wanted to hold the item to make sure it was in compliance, but after speaking to their legal team, it seems like it is indeed in compliance. So as long as your office doesn't have any problems with it, I believe it's...
Well, the planning commission did not, and they did approve it, but I think there was a question about how far it was distance from a church.
From the church.
Serving alcohol, which is preempted by New York State. So that would be the office to ask about that.
Yes.
Alcohol.
Well, I spoke to the owners and their legal team, and they said that the distance is actually measured from front entrance to front entrance legally, and that they had consulted and that they believed they were on firm ground.
Yeah, I can't speak to
Right,
that.
and we
So that'll be a
can't
determination
believe,
in
we
New York
need to have a determination.
That is true, the law is that way.
Yeah.
I mean, either way, they're not going to be able to get their license
Right,
from New York
it's
State. They
our-
can still be a
Our ability to
restaurant.
hold them up it's down to New York State for them to determine.
Correct.
I just wanted
Yep.
to make sure that everything was on firm ground before I moved it forward. But I feel like after speaking to their legal team and researching it, we'll leave it up to New York State if there's any further complications.
All right.
Are you from?
I am.
Okay, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, just to clarify some of that. As a microbrewery, we are actually under, let's see, where is it? An M101 microbrewery license, which is a beverage manufacturer's license, and it allows for on-premise sales of the product that's being produced as well as retail sales. And it is not beholden to actually the 200, 500-foot rule that is normal for a bar. And we actually got this information directly from Stephen Fleming he's the craft beverage liaison from New York State. However, if we were beholden to the 200, 500-foot rule, the distance is measured from entry to entry, and we are in excess of that 200-foot barrier, so.
Question. Not the state will notify us, and,
Yes.
and our hearing would be, they would have the opportunity to have a hearing, so.
Thank you for that information. I have two quick questions. It's not just the state, it's just as our constituents in the community and one of our second largest churches in our city of Syracuse. Just, have you had a talk with them, just let them know what's going on there?
We have not had an opportunity to reach
So
out
you
to them.
haven't built up, okay. So, I mean, I would just suggest that, that you would just at least as a respect thing have a, Pastor Turner actually is
Okay.
the pastor there, he's a phenomenal person, just as a respect, because you're coming in the neighborhood and it's alcohol in the church there, and that church has been there for years. And like I said, it's the second largest church in our community, the first largest church that can hold, the community, and it's a very big church, so just out of respect for that.
We certainly want to be good neighbors, so.
Second question, so are you going to, you said you can sell alcohol and serve alcohol, so you're actually, it's like gonna be like a bar too?
It'll be a tasting room with limited hours, and we'll be selling only the beer that we produce.
Oh,
So
okay.
no hard alcohol, no spirits, no
Okay,
wine.
so just the beer you produce?
Yeah, and
What are
their
your
operating
hours?
hours are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and very limited hours on Sunday afternoons, so.
Okay, since, I guess we'll hand it over to New York State. Having handed out bulletins at St. Patrick's for years, I know that a lot of restaurants take advantage of advertisements in the bulletins at St. Pat's, so maybe they can work out some sort of deal. Item 43.
Good afternoon, Councilors Owen Kearney with the city's planning division. Before you today to request authorization to apply for a CFA grant. This is in relation to the upcoming CFA deadline later this month. And the focus of this is, as you are aware, the city and our division is actively working on a local waterfront revitalization program plan for the lakefront area. We're about halfway through that project, and part of that project identifies not only sites, but priority projects within the lakefront planning area. The request before you today is to apply for implementation dollars. Although that plan is not complete, New York State allows municipalities to apply and start getting ahead as we start to develop those plans that we may begin pre-development activities, thinking about conceptual design, schematic design, feasibility studies. And so what we're focused on is looking at the Inner Harbor area. What are projects that we could further develop with these dollars, if they're awarded, to really enhance the planning work that we're doing? Thinking about connectivity, thinking about environmental conditions, economic development, and quality of life. As we know, there's a variety of things going on and being considered around that area. And so these are dollars that would help set the stage to begin implementing various things that the city wants. I'm being vague because we're currently developing that now. And this will be part of our application. Obviously, we have to come before you to get that authorization, but that will be developed as part of our upcoming application.
So if it comes through, we'll have $50,000 in local match.
The request is for $200,000, and the local match required is 25% of that. And so we would be matching that with the time myself and colleagues spend on this.
Appreciate the work.
That's correct.
Appreciate the work you've been doing on this, Owen. I think it's coming along great. And so, is there any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to ask a little question here. Do we own the Inner Harbor?
There are multiple entities that own property around the Inner Harbor and control the Inner Harbor.
That's what I thought.
From the New York State Canal Corporation, private ownership, city ownership. There's a lot of different owners around there, and part of the planning work that we're doing is bringing those owners together to kind of think collectively about what we need out there and what will help really revitalize that area, draw more people to that area.
So we would be the lead with other collaborating partners.
Not only with the current planning grant that we have, the LWRP, and also, this is a city application for these dollars before you today.
Originally, all the access properties around the lake were State Canal Corp.
Right.
And then we were able to grab them from the State Canal Corp. But I think that already went through both legislative houses in the state. So
I think some of it, Counselor, do you know exactly what we own over there?
We could surely provide more detail on and map
around the Inner
who owns what. Obviously, this is a collaboration in the lakefront, as you can imagine. It's a collaboration, and that's what we not only currently are doing, but will continue to do with private ownership, with the county, with the state. It's a team effort out there, and that's the way that we're approaching this, and we'll continue to do so.
So it's a great facility. It's a great opportunity, too. Thank you. Any other questions? 44. Who's saying over there? Oh, Eric.
Good afternoon, councilors. Eric Ennis, Neighborhood and Business Development. So this request before you is to authorize a grant application that the city is seeking to submit for a New York State program, primarily focusing on MWBE businesses and expanding their capacity and providing technical assistance. The program, known as the MWBE Business Growth Accelerator, is a program that basically equips, and we would go through a selection process of 15 to 20 existing New York State certified MWBEs, provide them with direct consulting, technical experience, basically empowering them when they are bidding on New York State projects, particularly around construction and other key projects, especially given the amount of work we anticipate happening in this community in the coming years. The city would be the direct applicant. This would be a combination between the business development staff as well as the Office of Minority Affairs, and then directly bringing in technical experts helping every single one of these MWBE firms that's able to avail themselves of these services.
So does the Office of Minority Affairs, do they have the capacity? Or you're going to give them that capacity?
So it would be a combination of NBD staff working alongside Minority Affairs, really to, I think, provide wraparound services, but then also bringing in actually outside consulting who specialize in this area, especially when it comes to making competitive bids for New York State contracts. So it'd be a combination of city staff, but then also bringing in outside services.
And it's going to update our list, correct, in the system?
So one of the things that we're constantly doing is if there are firms or if there's entrepreneurs out there that are looking to join the city certified MWBE list, but also the New York State one, we always want to make sure we're promoting and going through that process of what certification looks like. We've been talking about ways to streamline that process. This specifically would be focused for existing New York State certified firms. And we know there's several people in this community that are also going through that certification process right now with the state. We have to go through this applications process, but once they are state certified, they would be eligible to participate in this program.
Any other questions?
You already know what I'm going to ask, right?
I think so. About match?
Yeah, because we definitely need the match in there.
Okay.
And just wanted you to speak on the match, because if I wouldn't have seen it, I don't think it would have made the agenda that it didn't have the match in.
Okay.
And so 50% at least of cash have to be matched, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So the way the program is structured, in-kind services, given the number of city staff that will contribute to advancing this, that is part of it. But there's also a financial match contribution. Now, that funding would come from the Department of Neighborhood and Business Development, given our involvement. So we have committed. I've spoken to Commissioner Collins about that. But do you need something specifically more specified to where the account would come from?
Yeah, I do, so I can submit it to law so we can have that in the legislation.
Okay.
So Eric, we got the list of the 15 and 20 existing New York State MWBE certified construction service and construction consultant businesses we're talking about?
That's correct. And I think what the clerk is referring to is just when, in parentheses, when you're going to see the match still has to be identified. The city's commitment is that that match would be put forward. But I think you're just looking for a little more specificity around that.
Right. We need to know what the match is, where the match is going to come from, that 50% cash. And look like you're going to give it to us out your pocket, right?
Councilor, I'm a little short on the $35,000 that it would take to do that at the moment, but I appreciate the assumption that I might. So at the moment with where we're at, and this was one of those where just the timing of the July meeting and the timing of this aren't perfect. We know that we can find the match outside of the city budget. We know we can find it within different either grants or entities within NBD. How specific do you need us to be for you to feel like you've got what you need?
We just need to, you just need to be specific with identifying where the match is coming from. You know, it don't necessarily, if it's going to be cash,
Can y'all
Corp Council, we do need to have the account number, right?
offline about it?
We actually,
well,
it
so-
actually have something to do with the legislation being passed. So
So then let's work on this after the meeting perhaps, because we know that we can find it outside of the city budget, so that it wouldn't have to be attached to that. At the moment, we're still working through, it may be a single source, we may combine a couple sources. And so I just want to make sure that, you know, we're doing this in a way that works for all of you and for Corporation Council.
I have a question, probably for both of you.
Okay.
So this program right here, just so I understand, is going to help minority businesses get through the state, their rigorous process, right? Get through Grant Gateway, get their certifications, and you're going to hire an outside person to help them get through this, right?
Sure. So to clarify, so this is for already existing state certified MWBEs. Now, the state is also putting a lot of effort, and we've been speaking with New York State about this and the backlog that does exist. And I think this is something we've seen frustration about the number and the length of time it takes to get through that state certification process. But for this program in particular, this is taking, if you're already state certified, now you're positioning yourself trying to be more competitive with being awarded state bids. This technical assistance through this program will empower you to do that. So it is approximately 15 to 20 total businesses. They would, you know, each of them coming out of this program would be more competitive, more prepared, and essentially being able to win state contracts, bids, awards, things of that nature.
So essentially show them how to navigate the system. Correct?
Exactly. Yep. And we know there's a critical need for this, but also we know that there is a ready and willing audience of individuals that will take advantage of this program.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm sure we'll find the $70,000 somewhere.
So quick question though, this is a good point that Counselor just brought up. So we find that with most of the minority businesses, they don't have the bond to be able to even work on the project. So are they going to help them with the bonding of these projects?
I can tell you that when it comes to financing and assisting with whether it's equipment or if they need working capital, those are conversations that we have with MWBE firms to really identify where are they able to get either permanent working capital or other financing. So whether it's bonding or other resources that businesses can take advantage of, that's one of the things that would be covered in this curriculum as part of the process of how can they use that temporary capital that they may need for a temporary period of time if they're waiting to get repaid on a job that they were awarded.
And if there's 15 of them, with all the ARPA money flying, can't we help them with bonding?
I know that we are, looking at ways to continue to expand that capacity. I mean, I don't know if you want to speak to that.
So Councilor, something that Deputy Commissioner and I have been very, very focused on is identifying a variety of different ways that a lot of our existing women and minority business enterprises right now, how to capitalize them. And so ARPA may be a path forward, but there's other optional paths forward from a creative financing standpoint. How does some of the money get used to simply backstop loans so that they're more attractive to traditional lending? A variety of different ways to look at. One of our biggest fears right now is that the opportunities that exist with all of the significant development we've got, 81. East Adams, we've got another item coming up right here, that the local business communities are not quite to the point where they would get to capitalize on the wealth generation that happens, and that wealth generation actually happens with businesses that come in from out of the area to get a state contract, for instance. And so outside of this particular application that we're talking about, we're actively working on how do we grow access to capital.
You're talking about shrinking the criteria, maybe, when it comes to
well,
buying?
so the challenge is we don't set the criteria for situations like this where it's the state contract. So what our goal is how do we make sure that all of the players that have access to capital and are interested in this type of investment are matched up with the right businesses, and the businesses are appropriately set up so that they can be attractive to those investors. So that's we are looking at it big picture. What we're talking to you right now about is one particular component of that big picture that's a great opportunity, and so we want to go for it.
So I'm sure members of the council can work with you on that, because as long as I've been here, I've heard that same complaint President Hudson brought up.
Yeah.
It's a lack of ability to bond for many of the minority companies, and especially the Joint School Construction Board. We went through this the first time.
We see it there. Housing Authority sees that regularly with minority contractors that have the ability but not the capacity. And anybody that's offering government contracts locally sees that issue. Absolutely.
Okay, there's an opportunity to work together, President Hudson.
I believe there is, because we have to at least try to make the playing field a little more balanced.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Good.
I think we're all set on that. Next, 45 and 46, we have a zone change plan, institutional district. Heather insists on sitting in the back row.
Hi again, Heather Lamandola, zoning administrator. All right, so Syracuse University bought 727 South Krause at the Marshall Building. They want to put a loading dock on the back, which faces and is encroaching into the existing parking lot of Marshall Square Mall. In order to do that, they need to erase the property line, so re-subdivision, change the zoning district back to what it was, and amend their district plan for the Marshall Square Mall. So 2 of these, and modify their special permit. 2 of these are on your agenda right now for changing the zoning back to what it was, to business class A, and amending their district plan of the existing Marshall Square Mall that they just changed recently.
Any questions?
Yeah. So with all of that construction, with the roads they already tore up, is there anything in there in plan to get the roads fixed if we go ahead and approve this?
Well, I could ask Jeremy Robinson that. No. He says no.
Okay.
Nice effort, Counselor. Okay, I think we're all set, if nobody has a question. And number 47. You carrying the ball here, Commissioner? It's, I think Jen is.
We're going to play a little back and forth, I think.
Okay, I think, okay, good.
Matt OJ, Assessment. We are requesting council authorization to enter into a purchase and sale agreement with Albany's organization for the sale of a portion of 800 South Wilbur Avenue rear and 802 South Wilbur Avenue, portion of the former Syracuse Developmental Center site. As some councilors know, after having served on the RFP committee, we have gone through a series of proposals and believe we've identified one that best suits our needs and seems practical to achieve the developer's goal. This is a three-phase residential development, mixed income housing, multifamily housing, and it involves a developer with decades of experience, thousands of units delivered, a lot of experience in the downstate area, a lot of experience with financing this type of development, and for us to move forward and for them to get financing, put the final touches on a site plan, we'd like to enter into contract. Anything further?
And there's, of course, an ordinance here beforehand. This is, thank you, Commissioner, and Jen, this, of course, this might be the briefest for sale history of probably the city of Syracuse. There's not much here, except we're going to get $20,000 per residential unit, but there's not really a plan that we've seen. We certainly saw President Hudson and I served on that advisory committee.
And see, that's where I'm at, Counselor, because I understand when we talked about it, we talked about Photokite or whoever they are, okay? And we briefly talked about housing. And now we have a couple hundred properties, and this was all kind of new to me. I know we talked about it, but there was nothing laid out in concrete about this housing project.
Right. So, good afternoon, councilors. Jen Tiff, Director of Strategic Initiatives for the city. So, a couple of quick notes about kind of where we're at in the process. So, and Councilor Hogan and President Hudson know this from their previous involvement on the site review committee that we had established. So
that was the name of it, Jen, the site review committee.
Yes.
It wasn't an RFP committee.
Correct. No, correct.
There was members of the public were involved in it.
Correct. Exactly right. Yeah. So what we decided to do early on with this property, so I think everyone here is aware, this is a 48-acre parcel. Very rare that the city would have the ability to, to dispose of something this size and scale. We had foreclosed on the property, which unfortunately now sits in a pretty dilapidated state. I know for folks that are familiar with it, I think eyesore is a word that gets used a lot to describe the structure that exists there today. So obviously a very big priority for us to turn this property around, get it back into private hands to redevelop the site. We decided, really to work with initially a broker to help us market the site, to solicit proposals, because it's such a large and complex undertaking. And with the advice of Corporation Counsel, we decided not to use an RFP process, so we used a more traditional brokerage-based process that a lot of times is used on the commercial side of things to solicit proposals, and then ultimately ended up identifying a team of developers. Albany's organization is just one part of the team. And their focus is on residential development. There is another team that is working on the redevelopment of basically 50% of the site as commercial.
Jen, we have a long agenda. I am going to have a meeting on this. We can get all the teams, we can gather all the teams you just mentioned together.
We will.
To discuss this. But there's some issues I think we want to address, including, I think at some point, we're going to need a public meeting on the west side regarding this.
Sure.
Also, I want, the revenue streams that they plan to access, I want a breakdown of exactly the housing they're planning, as far as the AMIs go. You mentioned market rate here, you mentioned affordable, you mentioned a lot of different things. But it's one of the few things they really do mention. And once again, this doesn't really have a final price at all. So like as many units as they produce, that's how they're going to pay us. Whether they'll need a shelter tax agreement, there's a lot of things. And I also want to, I think that we have to be cognizant of the fact that New York State has agreed to clean this property.
Correct.
When myself and President Hudson and former Councilor Bay were on the site review committee, we offered that RFPs were flying out there, and the big prohibitive factor of that was that people didn't know, the developers didn't know if they had to clean the property. Now that goes away. Unless there's some sort of agreement between the administration and the state, and you told me there wasn't, regarding what's going to be up there, I think that we're going to miss a chance to maybe we should offer an RFP out again for this property.
Well, so,
especially if it's going to be clean.
yeah, just real quickly to address that last comment. So when we first approached the state several months ago with the request that they maybe help us clean the site, to your point, do the demolition of the existing structures, remediate anything that we find, during demolition in terms of hazards on the site, and then do some site work as well. So roads, make the water extensions possible so that the developers could connect to city water, sewer, et cetera. When we proposed that to the state, they did ask if we were working with any developers. They have received a copy of the letter of intent that we had signed with both Albany's and Center State for the commercial side of the development. So, Counselor, while we don't have a grant disbursement agreement fully fleshed out with the state with stipulations, we do need to negotiate that with the state for the $29 million that they would put forward to help us clean and do the site work for the site. Our belief and understanding is that they have agreed to provide the $29 million for the type of development that we have essentially started to plan here. So obviously part of it's residential and part of it's commercial.
But you planned, that's great, and we were part of what happened as far as we saw what they were planning, but we still didn't, there wasn't any vote on it or anything like that, or is it any acquisition from this acquiescence to the city either, excuse my, not stumbling over those phrases, but that's the thing, we didn't agree to this. So now we're being asked to agree to something that we really don't know much about.
Sure. Yeah, and we can provide some more details. Obviously, we've got the purchase agreement itself that we're happy to share so everyone can see all the terms. The other thing I'll just kind of point out to folks is, the level of planning that it takes to do a true site plan for a site like this, and really a transformative redevelopment on a clean site post demolition. It obviously takes time and resources from the developers. They've retained King & King, a local architectural firm that you all are very familiar with. And so they're basically on retainer and ready to start that additional planning. That's going to really give all of us the detail that we're all looking for in terms of the specific number of units per phase of development, the specific income mix. They're going to do, a traffic study, which we talked about, President Hudson, when we met with them initially. But they're really looking for the city to make a commitment in terms of signing a purchase agreement so that they can, in their due diligence period, do the planning to produce a master site plan that we would then be able to approve.
We understand that.
So,
and I'm not saying, but right now we don't have enough to sign on the dotted line.
Right. Sure.
So, so I'll have that committee meeting, we'll have our people talk, and I would urge all my fellow counselors to, because this will be a significant project.
It will, but the 29 million is secured?
The 29, well, as much as it's secured when the state makes a public announcement and goes out into the press saying that they're going to give us money. So again, we're waiting to hear back from the state, to let us know which agency or entity to work with to put a grant disbursement agreement together. We believe this will go through Empire State Development. But we're just waiting to hear back from them. So yeah, we took it as obviously a pretty strong sign of commitment that they went out into the press a couple weeks ago and made a big announcement that they were going to give us $29 million to clean up the site. But yeah, we don't have the actual grant disbursement agreement in our hands yet. So we're obviously very anxious to work with the state to get that on paper so we can start to do the demolition work.
We'll see. Jen, to be continued. Thank you, President Hudson.
Thank you, councilors.
Councilor Majuk.
Thank you, Madam President. I have item 48 to 64. 48 and 49 are related. Joe's taking that.
I will.
And my agreement with Todd is that to give counselors a chance to vet this amendment, that it wouldn't be voted this time, we would hold it and so that we can have committee meeting and all and vote it on it next time.
Correct.
Run us through a little bit.
Yes, Joe Barry again, First Assistant Corporation Counsel. So items 48 and 49 are related in that item 48 is our city charter provision that in general governs fines and penalties. Fines and penalties are governed in the first instance by second-class cities law, which sets a very minimal amount. Historically, we've had the ability, and we have superseded that law through adopting our own local law, which we last did in 1998 when we raised it to 2,000. So we're proposing with this local law to increase our overall fine and penalty limit to 10,000. And this would give us the ability, not only with nuisance abatement, but other quality of life ordinances down the road that we may want to revisit. So, as you know, as a local law has to be introduced and tabled, and that will take us to the August 1st meeting. And as Councilor Majoke mentioned, our office has requested a committee meeting in the meantime to go over in detail item 49, which would be really a revamping of the nuisance abatement law that's currently on the books, to update and modernize it and really give it better enforcement teeth. And the enforcement upgrade would be to increase the level of fines flowing out of the local law, and to increase the criteria for the arrests that qualify a property as being a nuisance, and to make some other technical adjustments in the definitions and whatnot that would improve its overall legal defensibility.
So right now, how many arrests is it? Is it 2 or 3?
3.
It's 3 arrests. So in a situation very recent as of this week, if there's a homicide at the home, but there's no arrest made, but the police are there and we know there's a homicide, in that case, can we use this as a nuisance abatement for a situation like that?
Well, unfortunately, in the original nuisance abatement law, and it was adopted many, many years ago, homicide was not included as one of the criteria. So we're proposing with this amendment to include that going forward.
Okay.
So that would be something we would now have the ability to do, but it would still take the 3 arrests
For right now.
to declare it a nuisance. The one incident of a homicide would not be enough.
But I think, Councilor Allen, if I could clarify what, if I understood your question correctly, if they don't make the arrest, would the homicide on the premises still count as a violation towards nuisance, or would the arrest be necessary? Is that what you were asking as well?
In most cases, if there's a homicide like we had this week, they haven't arrested the person yet.
Right.
So how do you count that as nuisance abatement if the arrest hasn't been made yet, but the homicide has taken place at the residence?
Right.
Yeah, currently it's predicated on 3 arrests for the property to be a nuisance. I think in some respects they're 2 different issues, and our team can really go into that in more detail at the committee meeting.
Yes, and that's what I was about to say. We have a thick agenda here, and we have a chance to talk more in details about this later. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. CRB Raynat.
Good afternoon, everyone. Raynette Relaford for the Citizens Review Board. I am the administrator. We have item number 50. We recently participated in the Interfaith Work Duck Race to End Racism. And through that participation, we were able to gather some donations toward the CRB. So we're asking the council to approve the acceptance of the donation of $57.50 to the CRB.
Did our duck won rate?
No. We didn't enter a duck in the water, but we were assigned a code and people made specific donations to the CRB. So we did pay a $100 entry fee. So essentially, we recouped back some money that we paid to enter into, to sit there and gather information from the public and for the public to see the CRB at the duck race. Item number.
We'll take any money, right?
Thank you. It's a reimbursement if you think about it. We did spend $100.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Not a reimbursement.
Item number 51 is to amend the ordinance with our private investigation services, Freeland Investigation Services, who does investigations when I'm unable to do those investigations, or to continue with the process of investigating cases. And we have already exceeded the $10,000 mark, and so we need to have you to approve it to go to the $30,000 mark. We did get funds allocated already of the $20,000, so it's just saying, hey, allow us to use the remainder of those funds. But since the ordinance said that it wasn't going to exceed $10,000, we need the ordinance to be amended so that it says $30,000.
So can I ask you a quick question? So the uptick, do you have an uptick in cases now?
No, we don't have an uptick in cases right now. Currently, we are still below the numbers that we typically had, but based upon the fact that we typically average about 100 cases a year, and if I don't have enough funds to have our private investigator investigating cases, when we allocate $10,000 to him, we usually get less than 10 cases a year. That means if we have a year of 100 cases, that means I'm investigating 90, while doing all of the other aspects of our of my job. So by increasing that amount of what you provided before, we just have to amend it because we've exceeded that amount. So we're not going to hit the 30,000, but we can't spend over 10 because the ordinance only said we could spend 10. So some of that money will go back to the general fund because we didn't spend we won't spend the 30, but we will spend more than 10.
Okay.
Item 52 is
Wait, other question? Anybody else? No? Go ahead.
Item number 52 is payment to Aerograph. They have provided the CRB with new banners, 2 new banners. As we begin to do community engagement throughout the city, we need to have more banners than just one. Sometimes there is a parade and we have to have people walking in the parade. Then we have a table set up. If we only have one banner, it's hard to kind of, show where we are in 2 places. Sometimes based upon community engagement events, there are 2 events going on at one time. And when we try to engage the community, we can't just have one banner. So Aerograph just created 2 new banners for us, and we also have a tent. The CRB last purchased the tent back in 2011, and the tent has seen better days, and so we were able to purchase a tent, and it has custom signing on the front of it as well, so that we will look very professional when we're out there in the community on the days where we require a tent. So that is to authorize payment to Aerograph.
I'm good with that, but can we authorize it before you get the product?
So what happened was I actually, based on the timing, it was not purchased until we were getting ready to come for approval, but because it was later than the time frame to enter RFPs into the system, that's the reason why it's coming to you as if it's late, because it was past the deadline to enter a a purchase order into the system. So based upon the procurement guidelines, I had to come before you to say, hey, hello, council, can we please pay this amount during this fiscal year, because I cannot enter into, I can't put that in the system. So it's not really late. It's just because we could not enter a purchase order in the system because of the time frame.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, the procurement department has particular criteria, and the sharing of information that it requires kind of gets to me a little bit late in terms of when certain deadlines are. And so based upon that, we were past the deadline to put in purchase orders.
Okay, well, we got to figure out a way.
Let's make a banner.
I would rather
I'm for it.
give approval than paying for it after the fact, because we do a lot of that.
I think she know now that how they work, so maybe like in April or early May.
Yeah.
Right.
We figured out what the issue is moving forward. So this is the first time we've ever had to kind of do this. And we don't intend to continue to do this, but here we are.
Appreciate it.
The next one is 53. The CRB was provided with training by Bob Stewart, and his training was policing with our community. And he provided training for us on the 27th and the 28th of April. And the reason why we're coming to you again is because it was too late to put in the purchase order for this. We have a grant.
See my eyes, right?
I see you. We have a grant that through the Department of Justice, the police department was able to provide us with $5,000, and this is allowing us to use $2,000 of it to pay for training that the CRB received. And again, it's because the deadline was missed. Next, we have the authorization of GNL imprinting on behalf of the Citizens Review Board for T-shirts. The T-shirts, again, community engagement events. We would like
And you already have them, right?
Yes. Yes, we have them. So we'd like you to authorize payment of that. And I think that is all of the CRB's numbers for today. Thank you so much.
Standing still. Thank you.
The next item.
Telepathy.
Next item is for the fire department.
Good afternoon, Council. Rick Kisselstein, Executive Deputy Chief. The first item, number 55, is to accept funds from New York State Department of Health for emergency services training that we provide the firefighters. Any questions on that? It's for EMS work, so they can be EMTs and CFRs.
I would just say go get more so we can accept more.
We train them as often as we can. We got 4 agreements coming up, so 56 is with for our chaplain services with Father O'Hara. He's been our chaplain my entire career, so at least 20 years now. He does a great job. Next one is a software renewal for ImageTrend, which is software that allows us to report to the National Fire Institute reporting system. It's a requirement by all fire departments on fire reporting. This will get us for 1 more year of reporting with this software. Next one, item 58, is for the medical director for our EMS services. All of our EMTs and CFRs work under a medical director's license. This is the first year with Dr. Holliday. Our previous medical director retired, so that would be item number 58. Anybody has questions? Item 59 is for video services with Timothy Downs. He's been providing television drills and web conferences and teleconferences for the fire department for at least 18 years now. We're able to provide training to all 4 of our shifts through a television station that he broadcasts from our training center. So everybody can get trained over the television that way. Item number 60 is amendment for the ordinance. Okay, for this is hazmat training. We are reimbursed by the county for training of our hazmat team. And this is to accept more of the grant money from them.
Great.
Item number 61. The next 4 are waivers for competitive bid. Number 61 is for Hamatrol rescue system. This is the newer version of what most people call the jaws of life, the tools we use to open up cars and to get victims out of cars. This is going to replace an older system that we still have in use until that dies.
How many do we have? Just one?
There's, I would say, 6 tools in like a kit. There's some that spread things apart, some that squish them together, some that cut. So there's about 6 different tools in a kit. We have 2 of those kits right now, and one of them on our heavy rescue and one of them on our ladder truck in case they're busy. So this is just for parts and repair, maintenance for those, because they're the sole source, they're the manufacturer. Item 62 has 2 parts to it. This is for Churchville. They provide repairs and new bunker gear for our fighter fighters. That would be the coats and the jackets, to make sure that they meet all the standards that they need. Pierce parts are also come from Churchville. Pierce is a apparatus manufacturer, and they are another sole source. They are only the ones that could be doing work on Pierce fire engines. Item 62 was the other Jaws of Life. This is the older version. It's called Amcus is the manufacturer, and we're using them until they're no longer functional. They're still useful to us, so we're still using them in conjunction with the Matro. And so this is for, preventative maintenance services to get as much life out of them as we can. Item 64 is Value Tech Card Solutions. This is a software program we use to manage the purchase of uniforms. It's police and fire both use it. It's a card, kind of like a debit card. Every year you get a new one. This is how much you can spend on uniforms, and that's what.
We missed 63.
63. That's the Amcus tools. Those are.
You said 62 twice.
Oh, okay, so you said it twice, all right.
I'm sorry. Any questions?
I think that should be it.
Yep.
Thanks for that, West Onondaga.
I was just gonna say that.
action. That saved a lot of lives. It just proves that we have the best fire department in the country.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Tell the guys, and I hope that lieutenant's okay there too.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
And if I could give some props to SPD as well. During leadership, we heard about a car that was stolen with a small child still in the vehicle, which was very scary. And congratulations to SPD for resolving that safely and quickly. So our gratitude to them as well. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
All right, that will do it for me, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Joe.
She busted now.
Councilor Allen.
Thank you. I have items 65 through 86.
Afternoon, councilors. Michelle Spansky, Neighborhood and Business Development. Item 65 is a no-cost extension with the Center for Court Innovation to extend their current contract that we have in place for the management of the Community Ambassador Program for another month until the beginning of August. They have about a month's worth of personnel costs that were allocated under that original grant, so we just want to make sure that that's fully spent before we start the new ARPA agreement.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Item 66 is to allocate funds from the American Rescue Plan and to enter into an agreement with CZB LLC for the completion of a housing market study. The total not to exceed amount should be $261,650, which is actually a typo from what is in the letter. That was my error.
Okay.
But
so
the
change the 300 to 650?
Correct.
Okay.
So the purpose of what we would be doing with the housing market study is to really kind of establish a base level understanding of all of the data as it pertains to housing conditions across the city, where we see different variations, and use the results of that to kind of inform our investment policies and priorities moving forwards for the next 3, 5, 10 years, kind of across the city. So this went through a RFP process that included representatives from NBD, planning, assessment, API, several council members, and did a pretty thorough process of reference checks, interviews. Ultimately, we feel that CZB is the best firm for us to move forward with this project.
Any questions?
Okay. Thank you. All right, so 67, I know you guys, Counselor Hogan, you did the committee meeting for me last week. So I don't want to take too much time on it, but if you wanted to follow up on any questions that anybody had from that.
Any
I
questions?
apologize. I didn't even know about it. But
So you could you want to give just a brief overview really
I just
quick?
have one quick question.
Go for
If
it.
you guys are all good with it. When you say the community centers, are there particular community centers or are they?
Neighborhood-based centers whose total operating costs are below $4 million.
Okay, so any center in the community that is, they have to be, I mean, because if you look at, there's a bunch of community centers, but how does it have to be registered with them?
They would have to be a nonprofit, a 501c3.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. And does that include churches?
Most likely does not, because that would be difficult, if not impossible, to get the ARPA funding through to a church. If the church has a separate 501c3
Right.
that is not associated in a religious way, then we certainly would take a look at it.
Thank you.
And I just want to say this, Commissioner, I think this is a good initiative. As somebody that came through community centers, we know how much renovation and improvement need to go into those places, especially considering kids are in there and technology is moving, and there's not enough of that. So
You spent quite a bit of time with old carpets and low light within a community center yourself, Counselor. Yes, yeah,
Yes.
definitely. As many of you certainly understand the values that they are. The fact that a lot of us here have done that work is, I think, helps us all understand.
This is good. This is good.
Good. Appreciate it.
Just go ahead. Go ahead, Tori.
Go ahead.
I just want to clarify, just because there's like six churches this summer who are part of the summer youth program, and they have youth in there that they do stuff all year round. Long as they have another what is it, a C?
So it would have to be,
or a 501. It has to be a 501c3?
Well, a 501c3 is specifically, it's a non-religious way to incorporate as a nonprofit entity. So it would, any exceptions to that, we would have to take a close look and see if there would be any way to even move federal funding towards it. That's a significant hurdle.
Okay,
Yep.
just clarify. Thank you.
Sure.
Because with the seat, I'm thinking now that Councilor Caldwell said that. So the CDC, that would not fall into the 501c category, correct?
It depends well, a CDC often is incorporated as a 501c3.
Without the connection to the church.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying that those are the situations where there might be an option, and so we're very open to looking, because we all understand the value of these organizations. We also know we cannot give funding to a religious organization.
Not yet.
So that's why
Change it on the federal level. Not yet.
Yeah, they might.
Yeah.
So, and just to be clear, so each center, after the RFP process, then you guys are coming back here to the council before anything moves forward?
So yeah, Clerk and I have talked about that. There's I believe the updated letter, and allow me to put my glasses on, had that spelled out. We had that in there.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got you. And then we don't have the legislation for this yet, but we'll have that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Okay. Good. Thanks.
And one more question, Commissioner. So we did clarify that we're going to put this information into different buckets, right? Like urban CNY, CNY, Latino.
Everywhere.
Everywhere we can stick it is going, correct?
Yeah, including all of you, so that you are able to share it with everyone that you know.
Okay, you guys hear that? Get the writing.
I'm happy to talk to any members of the press about
Mike
this
Collins
once
got
we
y'all
get
after
it
the
out.
meeting. He'll tell you what to do.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And items 68 through 86.
No. She's smart. She's still wearing her mask.
Good afternoon, Councilors. Kimone Jordan, Director of Housing and Neighborhood Planning. So I have items 68 through 86. So item number 68 is 209 Crippen Ave.
Oh, wait, so it's not in order on here?
No, it's not in order. So the first two properties are ones that were in previous vote sessions, but we held them. So 209 Crippen, it's delinquent by $16,972. We held it before because the owner expressed interest in a tax trust, but they haven't followed up and submitted any information, so we'd like to move forward. Item number 69, 435 West Lafayette Ave. We'd like to hold that one. It's delinquent by $12,902, and the finance department is currently processing their tax trust application.
Okay, so you want to, are we going to withdraw that one you said? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Yes.
You. Okay. Can I use your pen?
Which one we withdraw?
We're going to withdraw 69.
All right, item number 70, 1000 Butternut Street in Carbon. That property is delinquent by $25,365.
Is that the accurate address?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Item number 71, 1115 East Colvin Street. That property is delinquent by $73,069.02.
So on this one, and I know Vicky, I'll talk to you about it, and I talked to him. So with the half funding, so he didn't accept it? Okay.
Yeah, and he's refused the tax trust option as well.
Okay. So he's refusing the state funding and refusing the tax trust?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, item number 72, 310-12 Delaware Street. That is delinquent by $109,509.86. Item number 73, 232 East Ave. That's delinquent by $19,386.85.
Is there a reason why it's not listed as the 5th district in the?
No, just a technical typo, yeah. All right, item number 74, 104 Elmhurst Ave. It's delinquent by $11,833.95. Right, 313 Kennedy, that's on your sheet, but it's not a part of the vote list. So item number 75, 132 Kidd Ave. It's delinquent by $17,072.07. Item number 76, 250 Leon Street, is delinquent by $110,144.53.
So,
Leon.
So the ones on Leon, I know we talked about it a couple of months in the past. Are we coming up with a plan for Leon Street?
Yes, so the land bank will actually be holding these for Blueprint 15.
Okay.
We're not sure that infill housing is the best option since it's near the highway and we'll have to deal with deconstruction. But for now, we'd like to season and hold it for that purpose.
Leon Street?
So that'll be 250
And you're gonna do
Leon.
that for both of them, right? The
Yep.
ones on Leon?
So all three of them.
Okay.
So 250 Leon, 280 Leon delinquent by over 63,000, and 26870 Leon delinquent by over 66,000.
Wow.
All right, item number 79, we'd actually like to withdraw. It's for 216 Martin Luther King East. So Patty Lynch in our department reached out to the owner on June 28th, and they expressed interest in saving the property, and then they've also followed up with the finance department to come up with a plan. All right, item number 80, 106 Onondaga Ave is delinquent by $5,027.88. Item number 81, 207 Pond Street is delinquent by $85,914.42. Item number, are we on 50, or 82? 42325 North Salina Street to Salt Street, delinquent by $36,937. Item number 83, 488 North Salina Street and Butternut, delinquent by $25,082. Item number 84, 855-57 North Salina Street and Isabel Street, delinquent by $30,141.45. Right, item number 55, 317-19, 7th North, delinquent by $16,796.11. Item number 86, 1260 South State Street, delinquent by $6,467.61.
Okay, and so, what I would like to do, the other district counselors, especially in District 2 and 1, if you can take like a couple of days and kind of just look at the ones that are in your district and let me know what you want to do with those.
I think for
You
me.
good with yours?
Yes.
Okay.
One of them might be in your district, Pat. I want to make a call on it.
Okay.
106 Onondaga.
We'll wait to hear from President Hudson.
Yep.
and then we'll
Okay.
take a look.
I mean, for mine, I haven't had anybody contact me.
Okay. So if you contact them over the weekend or whatever, just let me know. All right, and just to be clear, because it was a lot, so we're gonna withdraw items 69 and 79, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 87 through 103. Let's get the ball rolling. Jeremy, sweeping program, you presenting on that? Who's handling that one?
Already spoke about it.
Oh, yeah, cool. I'm good with that. That's an even better answer. So those ones have already been discussed. That's items, 87? Then we have
88,
slurry
89.
seal for 88 and 89.
Yep.
That's pretty much dealt with already as well, yes? Okay. Move on to 90, capital equipment, vehicles.
That'd be Rich.
Rich?
This is Rich, Deputy Fleet Director. This is just replacing vehicles that are older than 10 years old, 2004s, 5s, 6s, and 7s.
Okay.
Just regular replacement.
Where do those go again? Where do they go after they are replaced? Do they
We auction them.
Auction them out?
internationally. They go to the county site off Molloy Road.
Then it goes back into the general fund, correct?
Everything goes back there.
Any other questions on these, fellow counselors?
Can I scoot back to 89 really
Commissioner.
quick?
89,
Yeah,
yeah.
about the slurry seal. Again, notification to residents. Door tags are going to be going out to all of those properties. What's the timeline for that usually?
It should be already. We started, they came in town 2 days ago, I think. So the streets that have been affected already have been
Okay, so
tagged.
2 days prior to the work, the
Like a
doors
day,
get tagged.
day and a half.
Okay,
We don't want to give, like I said before, too much time.
right. Okay, and then back to 87, sorry, I was
No,
still
it's
going
fine.
over the
Go
other
ahead.
housing things. I had asked at the last meeting about the street sweeping, and if possible to get a schedule of that for the city. I know you said, I think it was a 5-day rotation for the streets.
So it's kind of hard to get a schedule, like I said, for just like yard waste. You have a schedule. Sweeping is so unpredictable because of sweepers, manpower, such and such. We can't keep up with it. Just a permanent schedule. I'm gonna be there on Monday, and we won't be there Monday.
Okay, so you don't go like quadrant to quadrant, or,
No, we just get off where we left off. So it's basically a round robin.
okay. So even that might be helpful to know what is the first street and the very last street of the city, just to get a sense. I don't know. I just
I'm gonna
think,
send it to you or the residents.
oh, no, not the resident.
I was
No,
gonna
just
say,
even on the
okay.
website, your DPW, the
I'm
city
fine with
services
sending it to you
guy.
guys, but the resident's gonna call you, not me. So.
Exactly, which is why I'm asking, so.
Okay.
Okay, if you can share any kind of schedule, it'd be great. Thank
Yep.
you. Thanks, Counselor.
Okay. So everybody was all good with Rich's item then, yes?
I think so.
We're all good with 88, 89, okay? ARPA, item 91.
So
So
you want
you want to start this, Commissioner Robinson?
Of course. So 91 is us purchasing 3,200 carts for our awaited pilot program for our Sanai department. This is not, we haven't formalized a plan for the pilot yet, so I don't have the details of that, but the carts take so long to build, so we need to get that process rolling. So once we do have a formalized plan, we'll give it to you.
Okay. I'm assuming there will be questions. My first one is just, what percentage of, do we know overall how many carts would be estimated to cover the whole city, and what percentage of the city this pilot would cover?
I think 10% is the,
So this is roughly 10% of what
10%.
we estimate would be needed for a citywide program?
Yes.
So rolling out about a 10% pilot, okay.
Yes.
Any questions from my fellow counselors on the pilot program for the carts?
I mean, we would
Hey,
want,
Counselor Schultz, I know you got
down the
some.
road, we would want a comprehensive list of streets and all that stuff, but this is
We
just
have.
buying the carts, so.
Yes,
we
to
just-
clarify, this is just buying the carts for the pilot program, which details are still being worked out, but this is, we need to go so far in advance that this is a necessary step at this stage as we develop the pilot.
exactly.
Quick question, if I could. So you're buying the carts in advance because obviously shortages of everything in the world today. Are you also buying the apparatus that you need for the trucks in order to be able to lift
We
the
already have
carts?
the apparatus.
You have the actual, I know.
We had to
that-
take, the trucks that we bought already
Right.
came with them. We had to take them off because we weren't using them and they got in the way of the
Okay.
guys doing the trash, doing the work.
I knew the trucks were able to be retrofitted, but I didn't realize the parts came with those trucks, so
Something
that's
over
great.
We do
Most of
have,
the plumbing parts came with it, yeah. Some of them have a card, they have to present them already.
Wow, great.
And will be included on the conversation going forward about the pilot, correct?
yes.
Okay.
Smashing.
Have that Route 81 guy take care of the pilot program.
That's on his list.
Not in my purview, sir. Okay, any further questions with that? Anyone? No? Okay, then let's move on to item 92, I do believe.
So 92 and 93 is just pretty much an amendment. We came to you, I think, 2 months ago about this green infrastructure. The price was $625,000. That was, I guess something got screwed up in the cost from the county with us and our vendor. That was just for one street. We're doing Beach and Water Street, so Water Street's going to be on hold for now until we can get the rest of the $675,000 to complete the green infrastructure. So that's what we're coming to you about today, to equal 1.3 instead of just 625,000, both those streets.
Okay. Any questions, fellow counselors? Okay, if not, let's roll on.
94 is just our annual
Safety shoes.
safety shoes. We go through Granger and Duval, which are companies that come to us on a boot truck, which is convenient for us. They're pretty much the only company around that does this. And this is just not for DPW, it's the entire city. So.
Okay. Any questions on safety shoes, counselors? No? All right, safety shoes are safe. Move forward. Let's go to 95.
That's Rich.
Mr. Vesty, Fleet Director, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99 are just to buy parts for equipment that aren't necessarily on contract. Joe Johnson does the Pelican for the sweepers. We can buy the equipment on contract, but we need to have, be able to buy parts to fix them. That's 95. 96 is Syncon, it's another kind of sweeper. 97 is for equipment for the parks, turf equipment. 98 Henderson, which is plows. And 99 is Grassland, which is also parks equipment. So that's it.
So this is all capital count stuff, Rich? All capital count, Corey? Okay.
Okay, no further questions from anyone? Great. Looks like Mary's coming up for item 100.
Last but not least, right?
Yeah, you're like
Mary
the,
Robinson, city engineer. Item 100 and 101 are requests for appropriating ARPA funds and authorizing the design of the DPW Annex building floor. It's a slab-on-grade floor, and the soil conditions out there are horrible, so the floor is settling, concrete's delaminated. It's a safety issue for our workers. So we're proposing to replace the slab-on-grade floor with pile foundations, which will prevent future settlement, and also replace the trench drain system, which is totally not functioning. And this is for the design phase. We will be looking for construction monies through grants or other resources. So you're only authorizing the $600,000.
And I'm going to keep my 12-year comment to myself. One facility building, one facility building.
Is the is the grant process at all tied into the design phase, or that's a separate conversation?
Separate conversation. But it would, if we complete the design, I don't know if you guys have heard the term shovel-ready. A lot of grants ask for shovel-ready projects.
So this would be a prerequisite to the grant process
Well,
starting?
for some potential
some
grants,
grants.
yes.
Okay. Any questions from my fellow counselors?
No, I just
Or the
wanted to
clerk?
clarification on it. So agreement is not gonna be needed for the work, cause, we had a little, trying to figure out where they're gonna be outside, contractors.
Yeah, we will be using a consultant for this, so we'll either be doing an RFP or using a general service agreement, which is also going out for bid right now, or shortly, not yet.
So this is not the time RFP have to be waived, Joe?
No, that would come later with the actual contract.
Okay. Any further questions, 100, 101, counselors? No? Then, Mary, are you 102 and 103 as well?
I am.
Great.
I'll talk about them together because they're basically the same thing. We're going through the seeker process and declaring ourselves lead agency for 2 kayak canoe launches, one in the Inner Harbor, which is item 102, and one at Kirk Park, which is item 103. So we're declaring ourselves lead agent. We send out letters with the seeker forms, and if anybody comments back, we address those comments. Otherwise, we come back to you for a final seeker determination.
I'm just curious, hasn't the project already launched?
The Inner Harbor one, we're in the process of, we actually do have the permit from the state, but we still have to go through the seeker process, and we're in the process of getting quotes. And the Kirk Park one, we're launched our website for comments on our proposed design.
Okay, so it hasn't.
But neither one has started.
It has launched. We have done it somewhere, yes?
Excuse me?
The kayak and canoe launch.
We have an access point that was completed down by Meacham Field, Seneca Turnpike.
Okay.
But that's not an official launch site.
Okay, got you. Okay, any further questions, fellow counselors?
No, I just got, Commissioner, I'll be sending you a email pretty shortly. Just in regards to, there's a couple stop signs that are being blocked by trees and debris, and a couple little corners. I know one by, we call it Danforth, but I guess it's called Brighton Academy now, where the kids are playing football at. Those cars that are crossing.
That crosswalk.
Yeah, I'll send them. I will. Okay.
All righty, and before we close out this meeting, it's with the utmost sadness I laugh, that we are going to miss you, Counselor Driscoll.
Yes, we are.
As we all know, this is his last meeting. He is moving up to higher ground.
Or the dark side.
Or the dark side.
The dark side.
Or the torn down ground.
Yeah.
So again, thank you for your service to the city of Syracuse, and thank you to your service on the Common Council.
Thank you, President, and I've just really can't say enough how honored I have been to serve, and all my colleagues. I'll miss you guys tremendously. It's been a blast hanging with all of you wonderful public servants, and if people knew how much heart and love goes into this public service, they wouldn't use politician as a dirty word, at least not locally. You guys are all great public servants, and it's been my honor to serve with you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
And with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved, yeah.
I need a second. All in favor? All righty, thank you.